Chapter 277 Sin Ruyin. When Han Li saw Qi Yongxiao throw himself into the forest, he widely smiled. Although Han Li wasn't very experienced with the matters between men and women, after seeing him lose such self-control, it was quite obvious how Qi Yongxiao viewed this woman who was proficient in formation spells. It definitely wasn't merely a good friendship, it was most likely a relationship of deep affection between a man and woman. Why else would he be so nervous? That servant girl also followed him, burning with anxiety. Han Li patiently waited outside the forest. A moment later, Qi Yongxiao and that pretty servant girl were happily walking out the forest, accompanied by a blue-clothed woman. With no trace of politeness, Han Li took a direct and careful look at this blue-clothed woman. She was of medium stature, had a delicate, small nose, and a pair of bright eyes as clear as water. When she and Han Li looked at each other, she revealed a faint smile. It seems this Qi Yongxiao had already told this woman about his identity. To tell the truth, this woman's facial appearance was not remarkable, not quite as good as that pretty servant girl. However, her graceful and easy demeanor, refined movements, and black pupils that seemed to be able to speak more than made up for her somewhat lacking appearance. If someone were to see this woman, they would not feel this woman's appearance was lacking but would rather feel stunned. It was impossible to mistake who was servant and master among the pair. When Han Li saw this woman's exceptionally elegant bearing, he felt a great headache. He didn't need to guess. This woman was absolutely of the quick-witted, clever sort, a woman far more intelligent than normal. It was likely that negotiating with this lady would expend a great deal of effort. It absolutely wouldn't be as easy as dealing with Qi Yongxiao where he was in full control of the situation. Many thanks to Senior for coming to rescue me. This young woman is Sin Ruyin. I can't thank you enough. The blue-clothed woman leisurely walked in front of Han Li and gracefully saluted him several times while saying this with composure. Her voice was as sweet and smooth as silver. Young Lady Sin, there is no need to be overly polite. This one only expended a bit of effort. However, let us quickly return. It's likely these people have some backing. If they have seniors nearby, it would be quite troublesome. Han Li politely said as he waved his hand, faintly urging the several people to hurry on their way. When Qi Yongxiao heard Han Li's words, he somewhat anxiously nodded his head in agreement and said, "That's right, Yinner. Let us hurry and leave this place. This place is far too dangerous." Ever since Qi Yongxiao saw Sin Ruyin, his eyes hadn't parted from her spotlessly pure and dainty appearance. At this moment, he spoke, incomparably intimately, causing Han Li to feel a bit sick from sappiness. The two cheeks on Sin Ruyin's slightly red face quickly became flushed. She glanced somewhat shyly at Qi Yongxiao, and after a moment of hesitation, she slightly opened her mouth and replied, "Fine, let yous leave from here. However, these corpses..." Sin Ruyin looked at the corpses and thought of saying something else. "This can be solved quickly by burning them into the earth," Han Li said without paying it mind. He raised the 5 fingers of his right hand, and 7 to 8 small fireballs flew out, immediately turning the corpses to ash. Only their storage pouches remained on the ground. Seeing Han Li destroy the corpses with such familiarity caused the woman's face to slightly change and her heart to slightly tremble. But she wasn't some common frail girl. Soon after, her face turned to normal, and she spoke a bit with Qi Yongxiao. "I have no use for the items in these storage pouches. If this young woman doesn't turn her nose against it, do not hesitate to go take them, but be sure not to leave any traces." At this moment Han Li turned his head and gently said this to the pretty servant girl at Sin Ruyin's side. "Senior, are you truly giving them to me?" When this young servant girl heard Han Li, her face revealed a pleasant surprise. She couldn't help but ask again, finding it hard to believe. When she saw Han Li lightly smile and nod his head in affirmation, she immediately said many words of thanks and happily ran over, gathering the storage pouches one by one. From her point of view, it was an absolutely happy occasion, as if the heavens had dropped a huge meat pie on her head. These pouches were sure to be filled with treasures. When Sin Ruyin saw this scene, she was slightly startled. But soon after, her expression returned to normal, and after saying a few polite words to Han Li, she boarded the floating small boat with Qi Yongxiao. After that pretty servant girl boarded while happily grasping the pile of storage bags holding high-grade magic tools, Han Li's body flashed and was the last to board the small boat. Spiritual power immediately flowed from his legs, and the boat magic tool flew off. Halfway on the journey back, the blue-clothed woman made a proposition to Han Li and Qi Yongxiao to land at her place so she could formally express her thanks for saving her life. Having the opportunity to get closer to the longtime target of his affection, how could Qi Yongxiao possibly say the word no? He eagerly agreed. Han Li also felt that this was a good opportunity to mention his request to restore the transportation formation and did not oppose. Thus, under Han Li's control, the small boat turned and flew northwest at great speed. Under Sin Ruyin's directions, Han Li arrived at a small unremarkable mountain several hours later. Apart from a bit of fog surrounding this mountain, Han Li didn't notice anything noteworthy. It was extremely ordinary, much like countless other nameless mountains of the world. But Han Li clearly understood that a formation spell master's residence would have certain protective measures in place, most likely an impressive formation spell. However, he didn't know much about the Tao of formation spells, and although he wasn't able to detect anything mysterious nearby, he didn't dare to be the slightest bit contemptuous. Under the direction of the blue-clothed woman, Han Li stopped at a group of bamboo rooms halfway up the mountain. This place was Sin Ruyin's residence. Sin Ruyin brought Han Li and Qi Yongxiao to a rather large bamboo room to rest. She and her servant went to another room to bathe and change clothes. After all, the two had quite a bit of dust on their clothes after being relentlessly pursued. To girls who naturally love cleanliness, this was a truly unbearable matter. Han Li sat on a bamboo chair and looked at the restless Qi Yongxiao with interest. From time to time, Qi Yongxiao would walk to the door and take several glances outside. It was as if this short moment was a difficult wait of 3 years for him. It was the appearance of someone deeply in love. Han Li found this truly amusing, and he couldn't help but slightly raise the corner of his mouth, revealing a somewhat mysterious smile. When Qi Yongxiao just happened to turn around, he happened to see this. Qi Yongxiao completely blushed and made some vague explanations before sitting down at his original seat with embarrassment. A graceful and virtuous woman and a noble man make a good match. This is a just and honorable matter. Why does fellow Taoist Qi mind it so much? Han Li sampled some of the high-quality tea on the table. After smiling indifferently, he said this with an appearance of ease. Senior. No. I don't. Qi Yongxiao became increasingly flustered. At this moment, that servant girl came in and Qi Yongxiao finally relaxed. Not long after, Sin Ruyin walked into the room with a graceful bearing. Her white garment resembled a lotus blossom in bloom, causing those who saw her to become extremely dazzled. Ruyin will engrave this debt to Senior Han and elder brother Qi in her heart. Please let this humble woman pour you cups of wine and tea as a token of appreciation. After Sin Ruyin entered the room, she went to the side of the servant girl and took a pot of tea from her. Then she sincerely poured a cup for the two. After Han Li took the cup of tea, he bitterly smiled and inwardly sighed, I truly don't understand this woman. Her words don't reveal anything. Although she hasn't promised anything, she isn't letting us choose anything either. When Qi Yongxiao saw that his beloved was serving him tea, he was happy beyond recognition. When he drank a cup of tea, he didn't taste it in the slightest. He only giggled foolishly without end. When Sin Ruyin saw Qi Yongxiao with this appearance, she felt a great headache. She could only turn toward Han Li and chat a bit. She thought to make some inquiries about Han Li's identity and see which sect or great clan he was from. After all, a foundation establishment cultivator was certain to have some backing. Naturally, Han Li wasn't naive enough to easily reveal his background and deliberately answered vaguely, skirting around her inquiries. After the chat was over, the woman unexpectedly didn't end up with any useful information. This caused Sin Ruyin to feel gloomy and even more vigilant against Han Li. From Sin Ruyin's perspective, even if Han Li came to help so quickly, Han Li may also hold similar intentions as that previous group. To guard against the unexpected, she naturally became far more careful and used her mind to the greatest extent. Senior Han, since you have saved Ruyin, do not hesitate to choose any formation flag and plates that this one has already refined. At this moment, this one happens to have many sets. Could Senior take a look and see if he is satisfied with them? Shi Yongxiao finally became a bit sober from his infatuation and said a few words to Han Li. This caused Han Li to be a bit surprised and also greatly happy. He was finally able to mention the problem he was most concerned with. When Sin Ruyin heard this, she was startled. But soon after, she smiled toward Shi Yongxiao with great appreciation. This caused Shi Yongxiao to further giggle foolishly with happiness. With regards to formation flags and plates, there's no rush. This one has another matter for which he wishes to seek help from fellow Taoist Sin. If you are able to help this one solve this matter, there will be no need to bestow any rewards. Instead, this one will give you an 800-year-old spirit herb that I had planned to refine a pill so that you can treat fellow Taoist Sin's illness. Han Li's sudden words caused the two to become greatly shocked. Senior wishes to seed the spirit herb? When Shi Yongxiao heard these words, he couldn't help but stand and simultaneously asked this with pleasant surprise. At this moment, he was completely absorbed in his wish to treat his beloved's illness and felt greatly moved.